Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on this Tuesday evening, November 23rd, 2021. And if you'd like additional weather information, you can always find it online at weather.gov/Alaska. If you have any questions or if you have an interesting photo to share or observation, you can reach me at peter.chan@noaa.gov. Well, here are the weather headlines, and we have heavy snow that'll be developing across the northern panhandle tonight, continuing into early Thursday, where winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories are in effect. Heavy rains and high winds will impact the southern panhandle, where a high wind warning has been issued for the day on Wednesday. And there is a wind chill advisory for east central areas in the interior for tonight into early Wednesday morning, as some wind chills could get down around 45 below. Overall, it's going to continue to be rather cold. This pattern is not going to budge, especially from the southwest through east central interior. That'll be the case through the end of the month and maybe into the first couple of days of December. But there is some hope. There's a possibility we could see a warmer pattern emerge here around or after December 3rd through maybe the 9th. We'll take a closer look at that in the coming days, because there are some hints that a rather warm ridge could develop and move in from off the bearing, which would really turn around what has been a very cold pattern much of this fall, and especially the month of November. Here are the current advisories and warnings. We have a winter storm warning in effect for Haines, Skagway, upper end there of Lynn Canal, where 5 to 10 inches of snow is expected from late tonight through early Thursday. The areas outside of that, Juneau, including Gustavus, could see as much as 3 to 9 inches of snow, where a winter weather advisory is in effect for now through at least midday through Wednesday afternoon. The precipitation, though, is going to mix with some rain, especially the outer and some of the central and southern inner waterways, so that's going to keep the snow amounts down, and especially the southern part of the panhandle. High wind warning is in effect for Craig, Ketchikan, as well as Metlakatla and Klawak, where winds from the southeast could gust as high as 50 to 60 miles an hour during the daytime on Wednesday. And looking at the central interior, Tanana on over toward Fairbanks and Fort Yukon could see wind chills as cold as 45 below tonight into early Wednesday morning. And so again, not much of a change in the overall pattern as we head up through the end of this month. Here's a sky cam from the FAA webcams this Tuesday afternoon, a pending winter storm with 5 to 10 inches of snow on the way there in Skagway. Klawak, some breaks in the cloud cover, but high winds and heavier rainfall will be moving in later tonight, and especially during the day on Wednesday. And then as we go up to the central interior, Nenana has partly cloudy skies. Temperatures have been hovering around 0 all day long. Again, wind chills tonight in some areas of the east central interior could dip down to around 45 below. And then up along the northwest Arctic coast, Wainwright has had a maximum temperature of 7 degrees in the last 24 hours with a minimum of 21 below. And here is the latest precipitation forecast for Wednesday and Thursday. You can see there across the southern half of the panhandle some rather hefty amounts in excess of 2 inches. In fact, rainfall totals late tonight through Thursday afternoon could be on the order of 3 to 4 inches across the southern third of the panhandle. So again, pretty good soaking with that system, and there will yet be a couple more lows. Another one could impact especially the southern panhandle later this weekend, and then a broader storm affect much of the Gulf and especially the panhandle as we head toward November 29th, 30th to close out the month. Here's the wind forecast Wednesday morning. You can see that core of stronger winds just offshore there of Craig in the lower southern portion of the panhandle, and as a result we'll see some southeasterly winds gusting as high 40, 50, even upwards to 60 miles an hour in some of the higher elevations. So rather blustery there, with the frontal system working its way nudging inland during the day tomorrow. Satellite imagery shows the hints of that moisture plume lifting northeastward now from the North Pacific south of the Gulf, and all that moisture is heading up especially toward the southern half of the Panhandle. Further north, we do see some broken cloud cover across the interior, but no significant precipitation, just a few areas of lower stratus, some ice fog or a few flurries, and then we have either some ice fog and flurries or scattered snow showers along the Arctic and northwest coast, running down to just off of the north, or I should say the western and southwestern coast. So on the weather map, stationary front kind of demarks the Arctic air that is over the mainland in northwest Canada. It's kind of stalled right now, waiting for that next low to come up from the southwestern Gulf and this push of heavier rain that'll be working its way up into the central Gulf and then up through the southern part of the Panhandle. High pressure remains entrenched over far eastern Russia. It's been up around 1040 millibars. And as we go through tonight, that low lifts northeastward, and that's going to push the frontal system right up into the Panhandle, bringing all of that moisture. The heavy snows will be breaking out, especially later tonight up there around Haines and Skagway. And the heavier rains then will begin to overtake the southern Panhandle as the warmer air arrives during the day tomorrow, along with some rather gusty winds. As far as we get through the day on Wednesday afternoon, we'll see that low. Another secondary low feature dragging back there to the southwest and in the northern Pacific. And as we look across the mainland, not a whole lot of change. There will be some stronger winds here and there south of the Alaska Range, as well as to the north there south of the Brooks Range. So there could be some breezier conditions, along with rather cold temperatures in many cases that do not get above zero. And then on Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, we do have a kind of a double barrel low pressure, the one low that's lifted up into the northern Panhandle, and the other one that's been kind of the anchor pinwheel low that's associated with the mid-level low. It's sitting there just east of the Kenai and just near and south of Prince William Sound. Overall, though, the pattern isn't going to change for the interior. Mainland stays cold right up through the end of the month and at least the first few days of December. Lows will stay above freezing the southern Panhandle, otherwise 20s there in the north, below zero across the southern south-central interior. Highs tomorrow could get in the mid-40s to possibly near 50 in a few spots there in the far southwestern Panhandle. And then across the interior, it looks like Anchorage could get back up in the lower teens. Elsewhere, though, west of the Alaska Range, below zero. McGrath's lows around 14, 15 below come Thursday morning. A bit colder than that in some areas on the west side of the Alaska Range. And highs Thursday afternoon will still be near or below zero across the Copper River Basin, but back up in the lower 10 to maybe 12 above as we get from Anchorage down toward Kenai, and in the 40s across a good chunk, at least the southern two-thirds of the Panhandle. Across the north, sub-zero, no change there, and daytime highs in the 5 to 15 below range. And lows again Thursday morning will generally be between about 10 and 25 below with locally colder spots. And high temperatures Thursday afternoon may come up into the single digits below zero there through the Yukon Valley. Across the western, southwestern interior, cold, 26 below at Aniak. And then highs remain below zero Wednesday afternoon. Still sub-zero across the southwest interior with temperatures even out in through the eastern Aleutians below freezing on Thursday morning. And Thursday afternoon, you have to get all the way out toward Adak before you get temperatures back up above freezing. The extended forecast now looking here through the end of the month and at least the first few days of December is looking for below normal temperatures to likely continue. And then as far as precipitation, we're still looking at it to be drier than normal over the western part of the state, but there are some signs in the forecast models that there could be a rather warm ridge develop over the Bering that's going to jut all the way up into the Bering Strait, and as that feature pushes eastward, it could really cause temperatures to moderate across the mainland, especially southwest and south central Alaska, as we get past maybe December 3rd. So we'll have to see if that actually pans out. But right now, precipitation will continue to average above normal over the Panhandle through the end of the month, again into the first few days of December. Meanwhile, out to the west, below normal temperatures because the flow has been northeast to northerly. That cold northeasterly flow has allowed for a lot of ice to build up now into the Bering Sea.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Here's your flight weather. If you have a flight planned Wednesday into Thursday, main weather feature will be, we have a lingering area of low pressure now that's out over the northwestern Gulf, but another low is going to slam a bunch of moisture on up into the panhandle, producing heavy snowfall in the north and heavier rainfall in the south, along with some strong gusty winds that could lead to low-level wind shear and turbulence. Wednesday morning, IFR conditions are expected there on the north slope and Arctic coast, as well as areas of Prince William Sound, the eastern Kenai, and especially much of the southern three-quarters or so there of the panhandle. Wednesday afternoon, look for IFR conditions to creep inland upwards into the southeast around the Copper River Basin through Yakutat, Haines, Skagway, and then also down through the lower third there of the panhandle, and also up there along the northwest Arctic coast. Thursday morning, IFR conditions will be most prevalent in the northwest Gulf from Prince William Sound, Cordova, down through Whittier, Homer, and Kodiak, and then also across the southern portion of the panhandle out into the southeastern Gulf. Thursday afternoon, widespread IFR conditions are anticipated along the spine and the north slope there of the Brooks Range and to the Arctic coast, as well as the southern half of the panhandle and areas up through the northern Gulf Coast up to just south of the Alaska Range, and then extending out from the tip of the Alaska Peninsula westward north of the eastern Aleutians in the Bering Sea. Past conditions, VFR is expected there at Anaktuvik, though MVFR the further north you fly up there toward the north slope. Same thing for Adigan. Generally, VFR conditions are expected, but MVFR the further north you fly. Lake Clark and Merrill, MVFR conditions will prevail on Wednesday. For Rainy Pass, look for MVFR conditions becoming VFR, with MVFR conditions persisting as you fly further east of the east entrance. Windy Pass should manage to hold on to VFR conditions on Wednesday, as will Isabel. And then as we go, just take a look at Mentasta, look for VFR conditions becoming MVFR, especially the further south you fly. And Tanita should generally be MVFR on Wednesday. Portage also through the pass, generally MVFR conditions, but we could see conditions improve to VFR in the afternoon, especially as you fly west of the west entrance, and look for IFR conditions in the morning out over Prince William Sound, maybe giving way to MVFR conditions for a time. Otherwise, we expect IFR conditions to redevelop there across Prince William Sound Wednesday night and Thursday. Chilkoot and White will be socked in with IFR conditions there, with winter storm warnings there and heavier snowfall continuing. Freezing level is along the surface there, outer coast there for the panhandle, extending out into the central Gulf, and then well south of the Alaska Peninsula, coming back across the central Aleutians and lower Bering. And then with that tongue of warmer or higher freezing levels, that moisture that comes into the panhandle, there's a good chance of some considerable moderate icing between 3,000 and 15,000 feet, the panhandle into Haida Gwaii and British Columbia. And then further west, the Aleutian chain, just some isolated moderate icing out there between 2,000 and 7,000 feet. At jet stream level, 30,000 feet, low pressure circulation centered over the northwestern part of the state. 160 knot jet max coming onshore from the southwest into the lower panhandle into British Columbia. And then on the backside of this trough, we have winds out of the northwest over much of the Bering between 50 upwards to 75 knots there into the central eastern Aleutians. 9,000 foot level circulation has a low along the Kenai coast, and we have strong southwesterly winds plowing inland there through British Columbia upwards to 70 to 85 knots. Backside of this low circulation, we have winds generally out of the northeast and north, extending from the west coast, the Seward Peninsula, down through along the west coast, Nunavik Island, 45 to 50 knots there into the tip of the Alaska Peninsula, and then finally coming down to 3,000 feet, low pressure circulation there near Whittier, Prince William Sound, with the strongest winds coming onshore into British Columbia upwards to 70 knots. Backside of the low, though, northeast to north winds 40 to 50 knots there, especially through the eastern Bering. This translates to the greatest threat of turbulence and low-level wind shear into the southern part of the Panhandle and Haida Gwaii on Wednesday. And another area there just along and north of the Yukon River, southern slopes there of the Brooks Range, surface to 4,000 feet, and then some turbulence surface to 3,000 feet, the tip of the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, and Nunavik Island. So if you are heading out, please check the latest conditions and forecast, and have a safe flight.
Hello, I'm a GOES-R series weather satellite orbiting 22,000 miles above Earth. I can see a lot of cool stuff from up here, and I take pictures of it with my spiffy camera that has 16 different settings. I have such good eyesight, I can see clouds, snow, smoke, smog, and ash, so I can warn you about dangerous conditions and help you avoid them. When storms are brewing, I watch them closely and help with hurricane, tornado, and flood warnings to help keep you safe. And my lightning mapper tracks lightning strikes way up in the sky, even through dark, dense clouds. I also help with search and rescue missions. I listen for distress signals from emergency beacons and tell search and rescue teams just where to find people who need help. But even when I'm keeping a close eye on Earth, I'm monitoring weather out here in space, too. I watch the sun for big bursts of energy, which send waves of radiation toward Earth that can affect power grids, block communication with planes, cause errors in GPS, and damage satellites. Space weather is also very dangerous for astronauts working outside the International Space Station. I warn them so they can get inside where they'll be safe. So the next time you watch a weather report or check your phone for the forecast, remember, that's me. So look to the sky and wave. I'll be here. Whoa! Things are looking pretty bad down there. But don't worry. I'm going to give weather forecasters a heads up and help you stay safe. I'm a GOES-R series weather satellite, and one of my jobs is to keep an eye on Earth's weather as I orbit above. But I'm 22,000 miles above Earth. How does your local weather forecaster know what I see all the way up here? First, I have to figure out what's going on. I point my special camera at the Earth and take pictures of the clouds I see below. My pictures show where the clouds are, but I also take lots of other notes about the clouds. For example, how high they reach into the atmosphere, how much rain they might cause, and when a severe storm may be forming. But I can't keep all of this information to myself. I have to share it with weather forecasters down on Earth. A big antenna is waiting for my call. Since I'm a satellite, I send my pictures and notes in a computer language of ones and zeros. Luckily, the antenna speaks my language. Computers connected to the antenna organize my notes and combine all of the pictures and cloud information and translate them into weather maps. They send a version of the maps back up to me. I'll hold on to these for later. Another copy of the maps is split into smaller pieces. This helps the maps move faster from one place to another. The map pieces are then sent for processing before being sent back up in the sky to a communication satellite. From there, the maps are picked up by antennas at the National Weather Service forecast offices in each region. There are more than 100 offices. I also take the maps that I received and send them out to companies that specialize in making the maps more colorful and better for viewing on TVs and computers. The colorful maps and the maps from the forecast offices then go to your local weather forecaster. The forecaster combines the information from these maps with lots of other information, like model forecast data and radar data, to make predictions about the upcoming weather in your area. And that's how I help you find out if bad weather is going to ruin your afternoon plans. You're welcome. Soon it will be my time to shine in outer space. I'm the GOES-R satellite. That stands for Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellite. And the R stands for my order in this series of weather satellites. Like my older siblings before me, I'll do a lot for watching weather, but I'm pretty special because I have a lot of new gadgets. I'm originally from Colorado, but my journey to space has a few stops along the way. I'll be shipped in a very special satellite shipping container to Kennedy Space Center. Moving me around is not easy. I'm over 18 feet wide and weigh 6,000 pounds. And then things get really exciting. I get loaded onto an Atlas V541 launch vehicle. A big rocket! Woo! After Atlas and I blast off together, my compartment separates from the launch vehicle and I continue to climb higher and higher. Then I break away completely and unfurl my solar panel and antenna. After that, I have to use my thrusters to get into just the right position, 22,000 miles above the ground and traveling 1.9 miles per second to keep up with Earth's rotation. And then I can officially start my job along with my fellow GOES sisters, where I take advanced pictures for more accurate weather forecasts, map lightning in real time, and improve the monitoring of the sun's activity. It's going to be so awesome! I can't wait!
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. It's certainly been a cold fall, and especially November. It's allowed for a lot of ice development. We have pretty much iced over across the Arctic coast. A few open, broken areas there in through the Chukchi Sea and the Bering Strait, but otherwise the ice development has progressed rather rapidly this month and will continue to do so for at least the next week or so. As we see the ice now really building out there along the southwest coast from Norton Sound all the way down to Bristol Bay, and we also have some ice forming in through Cook Inlet, especially all the way up there into Turnagain Arm. And we expect this trend to continue at least for another week, though there's a possibility we could see some moderating temperatures after we get past about the 3rd or 5th of December. But in the meantime, it's going to remain cold. And for Wednesday's marine forecast, we have a storm system there in through the Gulf, producing strong winds out of the southeast to 40-knot gales along the coast and inner waterways. Some of the gusts could be locally higher, especially in the higher terrain there in the southern panhandle, where a high wind warning is in effect. Waves generally 5 feet for the inner canals, except for mouth of Dixon entrance in those areas there could see waves as high as 19 to 20 feet, especially southwest of Craig there. And then up along the coast, waves generally running in the 13 to 18 foot range. Thursday, winds come down a bit across the inner canals there, 10 to 20 knots from Skagway down through Juneau. Still upwards to 35 knot gales there toward Ketchikan and Metlakatla. And still 40 knot southwesterly winds offshore there of Craig with waves up to 19 feet. Across south central areas, winds will generally be out of the north across Prince William Sound and Upper Cook Inlet around 20-25 knots, waves 3 to as much as 6 feet there in through mid Cook Inlet. And then northwesterly winds, a bit of some gap winds or outflow winds upwards to 35 knot gales there on the Barren Islands there between Homer and Kodiak. And then as we go into Thursday, those outflow winds increase with a low out back through the northwestern and northeastern Gulf. Circulation will as such 40 knot gales from the west there with 11 to 13 foot waves again from the mouth of Cook Inlet to just northeast there of Kodiak. And then on Wednesday, winds northwesterly across Kodiak Island, 35 knots, Shelikof Strait. And then out of the north, 25 to as high as 35 knots, especially north of Cold Bay on the Bering side with waves as much as 11 feet north of Cold Bay. And across the region, west-northwest winds, Kodiak Island on Thursday, 6 foot waves, Shelikof Strait. 13-footers as you get off of Kodiak Island, and then northwesterly winds to 30 knots with 8-9 foot waves once you get away from Bristol Bay. And then looking at the eastern Aleutians, winds will be out of the north, 30 knots around Dutch Harbor on Alaska, turning more to the northeast and then east as you get from Atka and Adak westward to Kiska, waves out through the western two-thirds of the Aleutians around 8-9 feet. And then Thursday, winds come down further northwesterly around Dutch Harbor, 20 knots, but variable 10 to 15 knots through the central Aleutians, turning more easterly to 25 knots far western Aleutians. And then for Wednesday, west coast, cold northerly flow continues over the eastern Bering to 30 knots with waves generally 7 to 10 feet from south of St. Lawrence all the way down to the vicinity of St. Paul and St. George. And then as we go through the day on Thursday, north-northwest winds generally around 20 to 30 knots across the eastern Bering, with waves continuing in the 5 to 8 foot range. And the ice continues to build there in that cold and northerly flow, Norton Sound and along the southwest coast. Upwards along the Arctic coast, the ice is in place. Winds generally out of the east-northeast at 15 knots, increasing to about 25 to near 30 knots, passing through the Bering Strait with waves 7 feet there north of St. Lawrence. And then on Thursday, winds will continue out of the northeast around 20 knots along the Arctic and northwest coast, and to 30 knots from the north, passing through the Bering Strait to north of St. Lawrence, where waves still could be upwards around 8 feet where there is some open water in the far northern Bering. Otherwise, overnight tonight, we'll see low pressure get better organized there in the central Gulf. That'll bring a surge of moisture, producing the heavy snow across the northern panhandle, and the heavier rains and strong gusty winds across the southern panhandle. This feature will continue through the day Wednesday, producing as much as 3 to 4 inches of rain as we head through the day into early Thursday, with as much as 5 to 10 inches of snow in the northern panhandle. Otherwise, continued cold across the mainland right up through the end of this month and the first few days of December.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.